Hello, this is Dave Kline for the Reading 120 with another installment of Inside the Race. This is a special 2016 course flyover courtesy of Smoketown Helicopters, WEEU Radio, and Pretzel City Productions. Taking off from the local airport, we quickly get airborne and point the heli toward Mount Penn. This is the highest mountain in the city of Reading. As we come over the historic City Park region where you can see the bandshell in the lower left-hand corner and its amphitheater, this will be the area of the start-finish line for the 2016 course. Racers will wind their way 3 miles from start to finish once they enter City Park up to that thing right there. It's known as the Pagoda. And then along the Mount Penn summit ridge to the fire tower, which we'll see in just a moment. It's 3 miles from start to finish of the climb from the inside of City Park up to the bandshell, on up Dorrier Drive, which switchbacks its way through the mountainside. As you can see, if you look closely, you can see the cuts here. You can see the road pop through every once in a while. There are 15 switchbacks and turns in all from the start at the very base of City Park, up through past the bandshell, up to the Pagoda, and then on up to the summit ridge. There's the Pagoda, and then over to the William Penn Memorial Fire Tower. It's a fabulous view, about 1,100 feet above sea level. And as we go down, we're going to circle around the fire tower. There are separate videos if you want to access in the Reading 120 YouTube library. You can go see a special about the William Penn Memorial Fire Tower and how it relates to the race and the history of cycling in the Reading and Berks County region of eastern Pennsylvania in the United States. You can also see a breakout video for the Pagoda. There's also one for the Lindbergh Viaduct. And there's one even for the Dryville Crossroads area and many others as well. Lots of great features there for you. But look at this magnificent view looking over the summit ridge toward the western views of Reading, Pennsylvania, lying there in the valley below. This is actually Skyline Drive. You're looking at Skyline Drive in the area of the William Penn Memorial Fire Tower. This is where the points line will be for the 2016 Reading 120 King of the Mountain competition. Toward the end of the race, near the completion of the 120 miles, the competitors will climb this mountain 4 times. And it's not like they don't have other hills to climb on the way out through the countryside, as you will see if you follow this entire course. Now we're flying along the summit ridge and we're heading south, back toward the Pagoda. Again, spectacular views of the Valley of Reading. Reading was formed literally from the Schuylkill River to what became known as Mount Penn. So we like to say from the river to the mountain. There's the Pagoda again. An historic landmark that has a wonderful history. Back in time, it was sold to the city of Reading for $1. And now it's maintained by the Pagoda Foundation and with help from people that are very dedicated, like the Pagoda Skyline folks. And they do a wonderful job and deserve your help. If you care to make a donation ever along the way, look those folks up. Now we're swinging around the south flank of Mount Penn, and at the very center of the screen there you see the Lindbergh Viaduct. It's named after aviator Charles Lindbergh, and it connects the city of Reading over to the eastern side of Reading, and eventually, as we're getting into it right now, Mount Penn, the Antietam Valley. This is the borough of Mount Penn, named after the mountain, named after William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania. And what spectacular opportunities race fans are going to have during the Reading 120 for 2016, because here we see one of the main streets of Mount Penn in the borough. And they've gone all out to have the race be there in their community. It's a great place to stand and adopt a place, because the race will go past 4 times on the way out and out and back again, because we go out on this loop twice before we climb the mountain the final 4 times up the mountain. So we're looking out past Mount Penn now toward the Oley Valley, which is beautiful. It's one of the shining jewels of the entire United States as far as preserved farmland. Matter of fact, the county of Berks is second in the ranking of most preserved farmland in the entire United States of America. The only county that beats Berks County, Pennsylvania, is our neighboring Lancaster County, which is equally beautiful and historic. So we're touring around the Mount Penn area here, looking at the roads that the cyclists will be on. This is a great opportunity for cyclists and team captains as well to kind of check out the terrain. What you're going to see is see a lot of valleys in between these beautiful mountains. And as we get out further, you're going to see the mountains turn into rolling hills and then beautiful farmland, and then back into rolling hills and back to the mountains again with spectacular views of mountains even further away as we move closer. Now again, we're on the road from the Mount Penn area on out to Oley eventually. But here we see a portion of Carsonia Avenue. This is like a long, straight drag strip for the cyclists. It's going to be a spectacular place to watch the race. And as we like to say, get your woo on, as in woo-hoo, ringing those cowbells, using those noisemakers, letting these cyclists know that you really appreciate the effort they're putting in to put on a show for you at the Reading 120. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take a little side trip. Normally, the race on the first lap out, second lap out, will go off to the right. We've turned off here to the left because I wanted you to see the backside of Mount Penn, the mountain. Because on the backside of Mount Penn, the mountain, in what's known as the Antietam Valley, is the gorgeous Antietam Lake and Reservoir. And there it is, a favorite trout fishing spot for anglers, a historic spot. On its shores sits the mother tree, which is a testimonial to one man's love for his mother and how he went around the nation and planted trees. That's there for you to enjoy. But now, looking at the angle right now, back past this cove, up in the cut toward the top part of the mountain, you can see the road. The cyclists, after they climb to the King of the Mountain Points line, are going to scream down the eastern flank of Mount Penn right here. And they'll end up at this spot. They'll come around this turn, and they'll head back toward Mount Penn before they hang a big old left and go out on the loop on the first lap. And that's where we're headed right now. Now you're looking back at the borough of Mount Penn. A little more about Antietam Lake Park. The Antietam Lake area is one of Berks County's most gorgeous jewels. And as a matter of fact, many of us refer to it as the jewel of the mountain being Mount Penn. So let's recap. Antietam Lake Park. It's now a Berks County park. The 14-acre Antietam Lake and more than 600 acres around it date to the late 19th century when the Antietam Creek was dammed to provide a water supply for the growing city of Reading. The new and present dam, one of the scenic splendors of the park, was built in 1915. Virtually every tree in the park was planted in the 1920s by Boy Scouts in a massive reforestation project. The park, as I said, is a popular fishing spot and has been developed with hiking trails, a nature center, and other attractions and amenities. As I also said, it's the home of the first mother's tree, planted in 1923 to honor all mothers. About 2 years ago, many people in the community were involved in a project to restore to that very spot a brand new mother tree, an additional monument, and new fencing, and it's been made to look absolutely gorgeous. The custom was continued in other parks, that's the custom of the mother tree, and public places throughout the United States. And so, Reading, Pennsylvania had a claim to fame as being a leader for reforestation and the planting of special trees to honor mothers throughout the United States. Moving on, we can see how the road seems to just stretch endlessly out of the valley toward the mountains ahead. Make no mistake about it. These may not be the Alps, but when you're climbing the gradients on some of these 1,000-footers, they'll get your attention for sure. It's going to be a big sigh of relief when the riders get over these humps and then into the more flat valleys beyond. But of course, they have to come back and face the mountain in the end anyway. Off in the distance, you see where the Appalachian Trail crosses along the Appalachian Mountain Ridge. We call it the Blue Mountain section of the Appalachian Mountains. That's way to the north in northern Berks County. It's one of our most beautiful and wild areas. But for now, we're on the roads, headed from Mount Penn to historic Oley, Pennsylvania. a little worried about the Appalachian Trail off in the distance there. The height of probably the highest peaks in this section of the Appalachian Mountains of eastern Pennsylvania, Reading and Berks County, about 1,500 feet, give or take a few feet. But the Appalachian Trail does go from Maine to Georgia, and our county is proud to host a wonderful section of it. It's a rugged section of the Appalachian Trail as well, with lots of big boulders that you have to scramble across and some very beautiful vistas and scenic areas like our Pinnacle or Pulpit Rock or Hawk Mountain. These are all great places to go and recreate. We invite the world to Berks County and Reading and all of the boroughs and townships, and municipalities, towns and villages you see on this course and tour. So again, we're continuing on toward Oley, Pennsylvania, well known for how they have worked extraordinarily hard to maintain structures, stone farm homes that go back to the 1700s. Looking straight ahead, we're coming to where we'll make a hard left. That building in the middle that I just pointed to is historic. Many know it as the Inn at Oley. And as we turn that hard left, now we're going to make another hard right. The Native Americans, or original Lenape Indians, called it Oleka. Modern days, we call it Oley. The charming village of Oley is the centerpiece of the Oley Valley, which, in its entirety, is a National Historic District with 2 covered bridges, fertile fields, extensive equestrian facilities, magnificent fieldstone farmhouses, farm markets, country butcher shops, and the workshops and studios of several artisans and crafters. The Oley Valley Community Fair in September is a popular homespun event that will celebrate its 70th anniversary in 2016. In the early 18th century, the valley was a refuge of French Huguenots, Swedes, Germans, Britons, and Moravians seeking religious freedom in the New World. Several of their homesteads still exist and are noted with historical markers. Also in this general area is the birthplace of the legendary American pioneer, Daniel Boone. As we continue to look at these magnificent views of the Oley Valley and beyond, we're now headed to Dryville. Dryville, Pennsylvania. What an interesting area that is. Dryville is stuck with a bit of a misnomer. It's neither dry, as in lacking a flow of water, or dry as in lacking a local tavern. In fact, one of the first industries in Dryville was a creamery favored by local dairy farmers who brought their milk there for processing. And the Beaver Creek, B-I-E-B-E-R, flows through the village, which was originally and perhaps more appropriately called Stony Point, as it is in the also aptly named Rockland Township. As for the watering hole, as it applies to humans, the Crossroads Village boasts the Dryville Hotel, which dates to the mid-18th century and is to this day a popular country inn that still serves traditional and contemporary selections. The actual Dry of Dryville refers to Dry, sometimes spelled D-R-E-Y, which is a family name. The family was prominent in the area prior to the Revolutionary War and first settled the area. Ergo, the name Dryville. The tree canopy over the road in some of the rolling hills areas adjacent to the farmlands that we're going to roll through and a little bit further on the course is so dense that it actually gives the riders a little bit of relief and gives them some shade. So even on the hottest day, you have these wonderfully cool pockets to roll through in this gorgeous, lush countryside in Berks County, Pennsylvania. As we look way off in the distance again, we see where the Appalachian Mountains rise up on the horizon in northern Berks County. This is such a wonderful place. So many folkloric tales. Places like the Eck in Eckville, which in Pennsylvania German means the corner. Stories about ghosts and witches and hauntings and murders and mayhem and all those kinds of things. The things you would expect from a wild and rugged mountainous area. You can see the beauty of the roads. What a fabulous place to come and cycle, just casually, and recreate. You don't have to race, but boy, if you are racing, this is one of the best courses you'll find anywhere. It's got that whole combination of roads that you can just go all out in your highest gear, and mountains that will challenge you to get into your lowest gear and give it all you've got to get up and over them, and still have something left to be able to win the points or win the sprints or do what your job is for the team. Way off in the distance, we see one of the water towers for Kutztown University. And we'll be in Kutztown in just a little bit. It's very exciting. The race goes through Kutztown twice on race day. And during race day, Kutztown University will be celebrating its 150th anniversary. So fans for that will get to see a world-class race roll through there, and then they'll get to hang out and party and watch the second lap of the race as it comes through on yet another loop. Look at these beautiful roads now as we're winding our way toward Kutztown, Pennsylvania, by route of Oley through Dryville and then on to Kutztown. You'll see many historic barns and farms along the way in this part of Berks County. It's a wonderful section of road. And a lot of these roads are used by champion cyclists who come to compete in what's known as the Crater, which is the Valley Preferred Cycling Center in Trexlertown, or Brannigsville, Pennsylvania. They come out on these roads to train, to test each other, to get strong, so they can put on a great show for spectators, like the one you're going to see at the Reading 120 on September 10th, 2016. Depending on who you speak with, you will hear that in Berks County, Pennsylvania, agriculture is still the #1 industry. I think it's true. It's really an amazing thing when you see that we have the beautiful historic architecture that's been preserved in many parts of the city of Reading, and that's a city. But then immediately outside of the city limits, as you've seen from this video, we have these beautiful mountains loaded with trails. We have a river that you can recreate on, the Schuylkill River, and then we have these gorgeous rolling in historic farmlands. Look at this road that you can also go out and ride on or just tour around in your car or your motorbike. This is spectacular scenery by anybody's standard, and the point is, it's such great and varied scenery and terrain, and all within 30-mile radius. You don't have to go far. You can find a great hotel, and then you can go head out and enjoy yourself. See the sheep in the meadows, the cows in the corn. You are looking at the actual course for the Reading 120, Classic of the Americas Pro Bicycle Race. It's a Pro-Am race, to tell you the truth. And it is a proving ground for cyclists of all levels, though. The person who wins this race will have really, really earned it. Right here we're in one of the flattest sections. One can imagine that the race will be breezing through here, creating that wonderful sound that only a peloton of cyclists can make as they whoosh by spectators on their way up the road. Now we're approaching Kutztown, Pennsylvania, home to Kutztown University, the Kutztown Folk Festival, which has been going strong for more than 67 years, and so many wonderfully Pennsylphonisch Deutsch traditions, customs, and folklore. Kutztown was founded in 1785 and is now a thriving borough of more than 5,000 residents. More than 10,000 students attend the university that spreads out over broad slopes on the western end of the town. Kutztown University has produced such sports stars as NFL players Bruce Harper, New York Jets, John Mobley, Denver Broncos, Andre Reed, Buffalo Bills, and NFL Hall of Famer, and MLB pitcher Ryan Vogelsong, San Francisco Giants. The late artist Keith Haring was a native of Kutztown. Running through Kutztown is a creek known locally as the Saucony Creek, but it's known to the sporting world as Saucony, as in athletic shoes that trace their origin to a shoe factory opened in Kutztown in 1898. The winding shape and 3 dots on the Saucony logo are said to represent the rounded stones on the bed of the free-flowing stream. It's a gorgeous place to live and visit. Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Once we've reached Kutztown, Pennsylvania, we now turn back and put the mountains in our sights once again. You can see them off in the distance. We're heading back toward Reading now. This will happen twice during the race, and so we'll rewind the course using a different route on the way back than the route we used on the way in, but basically passing through the same towns, villages, boroughs, and municipalities. A spectacular view of a reservoir. It's actually a quarry. And, you know, as quarries do, they fill in with water. That one looks almost glacial. You have to think that maybe there's a lot of lime in there or something that's making the light refract in such a way that gives us that gorgeous blue color. Moving on, we continue on. Look at the flat roads. This is a cyclist dream come true right here. If you were like me, not much of a hill climber, right here, this is heaven. I've ridden these roads many, many times, as have many, many Berks Countyans and visitors to the area. If you've never done this, you need to come here and stay with us in Berks County in the Reading area. We have lots of great hotels that can accommodate you. Our Greater Reading Visitors Bureau has fabulous deals for you at hotels. They have special hookup deals so you can work through them and get the best possible rates. and then go out there and explore these roads in this countryside. Look at that, straight shot out to the mountains ahead. If you don't like the mountains, just go out that far and turn around and come on back. The racers, however, on race day on this course, have to do this straight shot and then climb up over the mountains and then come back again and then go back and climb up over the mountains again till they get to Reading, and then they have to climb that Mount Penn 4 times. Right now we have views of East Penn Manufacturing, one of the world's leading manufacturers of batteries. It's a wonderful facility, offers gainful employment to many, many, many people in the Reading, Berks County, and Lehigh Valley area. Cows in the meadows. They're waiting for the bike racers to streak on past. Well, now as you can see, the road on the Reading 120 bike course has begun its snaking, winding climb through the rural countryside of Berks County, and it's got that tree canopy again. And just like that, we've gone from the flat farmlands to the rolling hills of Berks County once again. These are the hills between the area of Dryville and Oley. And then from there, the land stretches from Oley to Mount Penn. And the next thing you know, we come around the corner, and there we'll see the city of Reading again. But that's a little bit further up the road. First, we've got some terrain to navigate here. Our hardworking farmers of Berks County sure do grow a lot of crops. I've always been amazed at what it takes to work on a farm and be a farm family. It's incredible, really. It's hard to imagine. I have the pleasure of knowing several of our hardworking Berks County farm families, and they're up at the crack of dawn, sometimes before that. First milking comes in the wee hours of the morning, followed by a second one. Can't kind of go on vacation whenever you want because you got a couple hundred head of cattle out there that are dependent on you to be taken care of. As we start our climb back toward the Mount Penn area of Reading in Berks County, we can begin to see how, even though we're in these rolling hills right now, Reading and Berks County is literally ringed and surrounded almost in a U shape from the south off to the west and up around to the north and then back over to the east toward the Delaware Water Gap, literally ringed by higher peaks and mountains. But as I said earlier, don't think little climbs like this one right here aren't going to get the attention of everybody's legs, because they truly will. The one saving grace is that the tree canopy here protects you from any hot sun that might be out there for the most part, and it is gorgeous. In case you need something to look at along the way, it's very rustic, it's beautiful. It's almost like a non-stop roll through some kind of national forest or park. At some points on the course, the tree cover is so dense, it's hard even with a heli to find where the road is. The core organizing group for the Reading 120 wants to thank all of our sponsors and all of our community partners and all of the good folks who have volunteered their time, their talent, their efforts to make the Reading 120 a reality. Reading has a long and storied history when it comes to the sport of bicycle racing. We got our start back in the late 1800s with a group called the Penn Wheelmen, when they, way before the Tour de France, created a 1/2 mile velodrome or racetrack in Reading City Park. They attracted people from the international racing circuit, even at that point in time, when these cyclists would get on ships to come over and race in Reading, Pennsylvania. Cycling was huge, huge, huge in Reading and Berks County, Pennsylvania. Since those days, Reading and Berks County have distinguished themselves as being the host of the nation's largest series of citizens bicycle races for about a decade. That was known as the WEEU Cycle Series. We've also hosted the Junior National Championships from the United States Cycling Federation. We've hosted many, many different kinds of criteriums and road races and mountain bike races and cyclocross races. Our own Berks Area Mountain Bike Association has created an amazing network of trails in partnership with Berks Nature on Mount Penn, the mountain, and Neversink Mountain, Reading's other mountain. And we also hosted the Commerce Bank Triple Crown of Cycling and the Reading Classic. That was part of the famous Philadelphia one-day race. All of that has happened in Reading, and we hope to host many, many more such world-class races. Your support is greatly appreciated, and again, we thank all of our sponsors. Way off in the distance, just to right center of your screen, we can see with the telephoto lens, a little bit shaky because of the heli ride, the William Penn Memorial Fire Tower. We're looking at it now from the east. Reading is on the other side of that mountain ridge, Mount Penn, to the west. But that's where the cyclists are heading at this point on the course. And, you know, the interesting and fun thing about riding here in Berks County roads, there are many areas where you're on beautiful, gorgeous roads like this, and you can look ahead and you have views of the vista of the mountain ahead to the William Penn Memorial Fire Tower or the pagoda. And you can see it just looks like it's miles and miles away. You get to see that throughout your ride. And you also get to see gorgeous, groomed farmland. These are properties that are well maintained by our proud Berks County farmers. I can't say enough about them. Look at the gorgeous mountains toward the upper part of the screen. Now we're heading back into the truly mountainous area. This is an interesting thing about Reading because you drop over these mountains to the west, and there sits Reading, as I said earlier, where the Penn Street Viaduct, or the Penn Street Bridge as it's more commonly referred to, now stands. The ancient Lenni Lenape Indians used that same exact spot as a river crossing to ford the river from west to east or east to west as they went about their business in the beautiful valley that sat at the base of the mountain. As we draw closer to Mount Penn, we have arrived back at Antietam Lake and the reservoir that we spoke about at the very beginning of the first loop of the bike race. Remember, the cyclists will do this same loop twice before they end up on the mountain 4 times, climbing a total distance of 3 miles each time from the time they enter Reading City Park to the summit of Mount Penn. It's a very, very challenging course, and it is a really beautiful and historic course as well. Right now we are approaching again the village of Mount Penn in the Antietam Valley. This will be an area that there will be a lot of excitement, we think, on race day as we begin to round the turn here. We go around the south portions of Mount Penn and we take a look dead on to a place called Carsonia Avenue. Look at that straightaway. On this road, fans will have the opportunity to line the streets, have a party, and from what we understand, there's going to be quite a community party going on that day, on race day, right here in this specific area, Carsonia Avenue, in the borough of Mount Penn, as those racers will put on the show, coming and going twice before they end up on Mount Penn. Could you have a more perfect course for a bicycle race? I don't think so. When the racers arrive at the upper end on this part, the return of the course via Carsonia Avenue, they're going to make this sweeping turn across the Lindbergh Viaduct that we saw earlier in the tour. Now we're looking into the valley of Reading, the southeastern portion of Reading, We see the Lindbergh Viaduct again. What a gorgeous mountain it is. And then we begin to see views of the city of Reading again, sitting majestically on the western flank of scenic Mount Penn, again ringed by mountains off in the distance. This is a fabulous place to visit and a fabulous place to live. You know, the nation's trail systems gets a certain ranking for usability and for likability and so forth. There's a famous trail, the Schuylkill River Trail, that passes right through Reading and Berks County. It goes right along the Schuylkill River in a section called the Toon Trail portion of the Schuylkill River Trail, as it makes its way from Philadelphia along the tailwaters up to the headwaters in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. There are certain trail sections which aren't completed yet, but it certainly is one of the highest ranked trails in the United States of America. So whether you like flat trail riding like that, or whether you love to climb mountains like Mount Penn, or go out in the rolling countryside in the historic Oley Valley or Kutztown or Dryville area like you've seen, we've got it all for you here. Right in the center of the screen now is the brand new Doubletree Reading by Hilton Hotel, looking right down the main street of Reading, which is Penn Street. Once we cross the Schuylkill River, it turns into Penn Avenue in West Reading. And we've completed our circuit. We look back toward Mount Penn and the Pagoda and Fire Tower, and we head back to the airport. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the 2016 Reading 120 Pro Bike Race Course. For the Reading 120 and all of our sponsors, the City of Reading, all of the boroughs, municipalities, towns, and villages involved, and our Reading 120 Core Organizing Group, this has been Dave Kline.